Story 1. Extended warranties for products that already have a return policy and fail after 2 years are akin to paying to lose twice. Story 2. Active but in used subscriptions. I know many people who have no problem keeping services like Netflix active for years, even if they go months or longer without using them. I suppose they appreciate the convenience and the effort saved from not having to spend 5 minutes renewing their subscription. Story 3. Multi-billion-dollar alternative health and medicine products and procedures exist. The placebo effect is a real phenomenon, but most of the industry lacks scientific evidence and support. Story 4. Traveling overseas to a charity site to take photos with children for your personal collection is unnecessary. Just send them the money. Story 5. Pills and other products, such as drinks and lotions, promise to enhance male size. I don't understand how a market still exists for these items. Story 6. Paying $8 for coffee just to sit in a loud cafe, pretend to work, and judge everyone who walks in. Story 7. Diamonds are relatively common in nature and can be easily lab-grown. There are other stones like moissanite that possess superior aesthetic properties such as sparkle. However, diamonds are supported by a powerful marketing system. Story 8. Expensive fishing equipment. My heart aches for the average weekend fisherman who believes they need to spend over $500 for a decent rod and reel combination. It's a misguided competition and an unfortunate attempt to impress other fishermen. Story 9. Everything that was once considered luxury can now be manufactured with minimal differences. You purchase bags from China that are shipped to Italy so a tag can be sewn on them, significantly increasing the price. You are paying for the brand name and that is all. Story 10. All the luxury items, such as Gucci and Prada, are made in China and are worth 5 to 10% of their selling price. Story 11. New upgrade of the same thing. I got a newer car, computer, and cell phone last year. They all felt great for about a week. Here I am on Reddit listening to Spotify, stuck in traffic on my way to work to use Microsoft Excel. Story 12. Luxury cars. A Cadillac Escalade is similar to a GMC Yukon but costs significantly more. The same applies to Lexus and Infiniti. Story 13. Bottled water. Why would anyone want to drink water that has been sitting in a plastic bottle for months, potentially leaching plastic into the water, if they already have clean tap water? Story 14. Organic foods. Much of the produce at grocery stores isn't truly organic. There is a significant amount of blind trust required to believe that the piece of fruit or vegetable you're buying is any different from the piece just 6 inches away in another bin that costs 50% less. Story 15. Organic produce. While some of the food is genuinely organic, some items merely have a sticker labeled as such. Organic has become a new branding issue, often resulting in higher prices solely due to the label. Story 16. Possibly the biggest money-wasting product ever introduced was the energy saver module that people would plug into their outlets. It had a little light on it, but it did not save energy. Aside from cheap products, the largest expenses are utility, cable, internet, and phone bills. You are being overcharged significantly. Story 17. People are accepting $1,000 monthly payments as normal for a depreciating asset over a lifetime. Imagine if you invested that money instead. You could amass $1 million in 20 to 30 years. Instead, most people trade in their cars for new ones because theirs are old and boring, and they want the newest models with advanced technology. Story 18. This is one of those classic discussions where you feel bad for working all day, every day, in a corrupt system and then deciding to spend your money on something nice. Story 19. Video game skins really enhance the experience of playing by providing a fresh design for your character. Beyond just changing the avatar's clothes and appearance, they can also offer a sense of identity and personalization in the gaming world. Story 20. Brand name clothing often leads people to spend excessively to promote companies that produce low-quality garments through unethical labor practices. Story 21. Women and beauty products. Anything artificial is a significant turn-off. Long nails, wigs, colored contact lenses, filler, Botox, lip injections, breast implants, heavy makeup, fake eyelashes, and fake tan are not appealing. Story 22. Coffee. Did you know that for less than $1 a day, you can make it yourself and save enough to buy that Starbucks? Story 23. Whole foods and food labeled as organic are essentially the same. There is no difference between a regular tomato and an organic tomato. You are wasting money. Story 24. I find it amusing when people buy large cars that make other drivers dislike them, only to later complain about their monthly payments. Are you really telling me you purchased a $20,000 vehicle that you can't even afford to pay off? Be honest. Story 25. Various insurances for minor issues are unnecessary when your risk profile is average or lower. If it were cheaper than simply accepting the loss, there wouldn't be an industry for it. AppleCare is worth it, though, because it's an emotional investment. Having a cracked or dented phone would annoy me immensely. Story 26. Cocaine always ends up with none left and will always end up buying more, just to defeat the anxiety from the come down. Story 27. Bottled water is often preferred for individuals living in a typical United States water system that adheres to regulatory standards, which I estimate covers about 95% of the population. Story 28. Cable television. I keep telling my mom that she can watch whatever she wants on YouTube for free. I've almost got her convinced. She is paying over $100 in Canada for a service she doesn't use. Story 29. VST plugins. You don't need 1,000 different reverbs and delays. If you're old school, 50 guitars are enough unless you're Slash. Story 30. Items purchased for the benefit of others rather than for personal needs, such as clothing, vehicles, home decor, and similar products. Story 31. Playing 6 to 5 blackjack in any casino with the expectation of winning can be misleading. If you understand it's 6 to 5 and still choose to play, you may not be playing to win but rather just trying to have fun. Ultimately, it's your money. Story 32. Expensive cars, clothing, luxury apartments, and houses are often purchased by many individuals to showcase their wealth on social media. Other common expenditures include junk food, energy drinks, and video games. The list can become extremely long. It's important to spend money on things you enjoy, but many people waste their finances on unnecessary items and then complain about not having enough money left. The irony is particularly striking, especially when there are individuals genuinely struggling in this world. Story 33. Huge, extravagant weddings are often over the top. Ask a groom if he cares whether more than 3 or 4 of his close friends attend. Imagine dismantling the wedding industrial complex if ceremonies were scaled down to just 5 or 6 of the groom's closest friends and 5 or 6 of the bride's closest friends, in addition to parents and siblings on both sides. Suddenly, there would be no need for mortgages for weddings. Story 34. Cars, especially newer models, depreciate significantly as soon as you drive one off the lot, resulting in thousands of dollars lost. Moreover, frequent repairs can add to the costs. I have seen cars from the 1990s last longer than those from the late 2010s. Story 35. Bartending or barista classes are often not necessary, as most bars and coffee shops prioritize practical experience. It's better to work in a relevant position and gain knowledge through hands-on learning. Story 36. Sometimes it's about timing. I paid for a year's worth of drawing lessons just after I got married. That was a crazy year for me and the wrong time to commit to anything except my new marriage. Even though the lessons were great and valuable, there are plenty of free tutorials online available. Now that I think of it, the price was about $365. Perhaps I should put $1 in a jar for a year to pay myself back. Story 37. Organic food, with a few exceptions, is not healthier, not tastier, and not better for the environment compared to non-organic options. Story 38. College can be challenging if you do not have a specific career goal in mind. I often wonder why I majored in German studies at a private liberal arts college. It has been 2 years since I graduated, and I can hardly speak German anymore. Story 39. Bottled water. Chances are your tap water is just as pure, and it doesn't require a plastic container. It is staggering to think of all the unnecessary plastic waste. Story 40. If they don't think it's wasted money, it is not. It's a personal thing. Other people's opinions don't matter. Story 41. Food delivery services like DoorDash and Uber Eats are often not worth it. The fees, the wait, and the quality of the food can be disappointing. It's better to prepare a nice meal at home or pick it up yourself. Story 42. Often marketed as rare, diamonds and most high-end jewelry are expensive not because of true scarcity, but because of artificial scarcity created by industry monopolies. They are only expensive because the people who sell them control the entire market. When lab-grown diamonds entered the scene, identical at the molecular level, the industry panicked. Suddenly, they started using marketing terminology like natural versus lab-created, scrambling to make a distinction that even expert gemologists cannot spot without specialized machines. The only real difference? One drains your bank account to sustain a century-old scam. The other does not. Story 43. Name brand products that cost twice as much but offer the same function or quality as the less expensive ones. Story 44. Travel can be enjoyable, but it often represents a fleeting pleasure that has become exceedingly costly. As long as people are aware that travel is a temporary expense with minimal lasting benefits, it is acceptable. However, travel is increasingly viewed as a necessity, a fashionable means of signaling status. In pursuit of this trend, individuals spend money they cannot afford or even incur debt to go on trips. That money would be better invested or used to enhance daily living. Story 45. I have been saying this for a long time. Daily fancy coffee costing $5 adds up to over $1,800 a year, which is extremely wasteful. Story 46. A Honda HR-V starts at $26,900 manufacturer's suggested retail price, around $30,000 for an all-wheel drive version. With so many new vehicles costing double or triple that, it's a hard sell to convince me that any vehicle is worth 2 HR versus even more so 3 or 4. Story 47. Bottled water. City water is tightly controlled and regulated to eliminate bacteria and contaminants. Story 48. I usually pay for not just a coffee for $2, but for a spot. I can really focus on tasks there. The environment matters. Story 49. Dare I say the Bitmoji clothes. I've never met someone who actually spent money on that, but I'm sure there's at least one person in the world who has bought them, and I think it's downright criminal. Story 50. In Florida, home insurance is essential. Most claims are denied, roughly 70%, and the costs are high due to frequent hurricanes. Many people do not have home insurance here, feeling it is a significant waste of money if their claims are ultimately denied. Story 51. Buying new or recently made cars is common. Taking out any kind of auto loan can be tempting. It's worth it because it will last a long time. It's actually a really good deal for a car with those features. However, you are paying interest on a significantly depreciating asset. Story 52. Wedding dress. You will wear it once, and unfortunately, your marriage may not last long. Story 53. University degrees in arts and human resources can be questionable investments. When it comes to cars, you might think that purchasing a reliable car for $30,000 to $40,000 is a wise choice. The reality is that most people could manage with a 7 to 15-year-old vehicle to get from point A to point B. Imagine buying a $70,000 to $80,000 car. When will you ever amortize that cost? Regarding houses and furniture, a house will wear down, especially if you are going to raise small children in it. There is no need for fancy houses and furniture, which will inevitably have scuffs and scratches. It is often better to wait until the kids are grown. As for luxury items, around 50% of their cost is attributed to marketing, about 15% to royalties for the company logo, and the remainder covers logistics, physical stores, and other overheads. The actual product typically costs no more than 5% to 8% of the retail price. Eating out is another area I find perplexing. I understand the social aspect of dining with friends, which is perfectly fine, but going out to eat just for the sake of it seems unnecessary. A pasta dish for 4 can cost less than 10 euros, while a steak can be 20 euros instead of 60 euros to 70 euros. It's astonishing. When it comes to infant and children's outfits, they will inevitably grow out of them. How often are you going to actually put that lovely infant dress on your 2-year-old? Story 54. Expensive fast cars that they cannot afford. You look good in that Mustang. Too bad you don't know how to drive. Story 55. Marvel post-Endgame. I know this sounds silly, but I used to be a massive Marvel fan growing up. It was a significant part of my life back then. I'm currently watching Daredevil, Born Again, and it's sad and infuriating how this franchise consistently fails to meet even the lowest expectations. The latest Captain America movie felt like it was created by artificial intelligence. I couldn't even start watching Secret Invasion. Even the shows that had a strong first season just fell off. Literally everyone acts out of character, and the direction the characters are heading makes no sense. Can someone please tell me why the man who killed Howard Stark and John F. Kennedy is now a US congressman? Why would he even want to be? There are still some gems like Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3, but it feels like no one is guiding the franchise. Even the worst pre-Endgame movies seem like lighthearted fun compared to the aimless content being produced now. From day one in 2008, I hoped for the X-Men to join the Marvel Cinematic Universe, but I just know they'll mess it up anyway, so what's the point anymore? I wish I could go back to 2014 and watch The Winter Soldier for the first time again. Story 56. Dolby Atmos. Extremely high-definition televisions often make content look worse because shows were not filmed to be displayed at that resolution, resulting in poor visual quality. Keyboard switches are similar across brands. They are all made with essentially the same materials, making it difficult to notice any difference. A linear switch that costs 10 cents will feel the same as one that costs $5. Phone warranties like those offered by Asurion are often not worth it. How many phones have you damaged to the point of needing a replacement? Personally, this does not apply to me because I use a wheelchair, and I drop my phone at least 50 times a day. I got my phone a month ago, and I have already replaced it. I don't know anyone who replaces their entire phone except in rare cases. If all you're replacing is the screen, your initial payment might end up being more than the cost of having the screen replaced through a third-party service within a few months. Additionally, avoid warranty badges. They are unlikely to provide any benefit, and if you have Verizon, you may never even be able to redeem it. Story 57. I don't know if people think it is worth it exactly, but certainly pay for it anyway. You don't need to subscribe to every single television and movie service. People might think HBO is worth it because it offers premium content, or that Netflix is worth it due to its popular shows, or that Hulu is worth it because it has cable shows. A virtual private network is worth it, and if you combine that with some basic Google knowledge, all you're left paying is an internet bill and, at worst, waiting 24 hours for a download or perhaps having to refresh a stream for anything live. Story 58. I spent $400 today on flowers for my porches. Their beauty is fleeting, but they bring me joy. Some might think that's a waste, but I don't. Story 59. DoorDash is an excessive waste of money for people who have more time than money. Story 60. Personalized license plate. I have never understood the appeal. It means nothing to me, but I've heard people say they genuinely couldn't drive a car with a regular plate. It's very strange. Story 61. Expensive wine. A $20 bottle can be as enjoyable as a $200 bottle, which can also be as enjoyable as a $2,000 bottle, especially after the second or third one. Story 62. The top-of-the-line brand-new version of most items when the regular version purchased used would accomplish the task effectively for much less money. Story 63. iPhones and Starbucks coffee are fine with me, but I get by with my $150 Android phone and homebrew coffee just fine, and my savings go into stocks. Story 64. Luxury liquor, especially vodka, can be quite costly. Stoli Illit is probably the least expensive premium vodka at around $50, and while it's better than regular Stoli, it's not significantly superior, as it mainly involves a different filtration method for essentially the same product. Patron serves as a perfect example. It is 3 times the price of similar tequilas, including the house label from its original distillery, Seven Leguas. Furthermore, now that many have decided that bourbon is an investment market rather than a drink for enjoyment, its prices have soared. I enjoy birthday bourbon, but without a lottery win, I would have to pay a minimum of $700 or more for a bottle. Story 65. I had a 2006 Volkswagen. It did the job well. Unfortunately, I crashed and damaged it. I now have a 2018 Volkswagen, and it performs well. However, I could have opted for a cheaper option and saved some money. The common factor among my friends who struggle to save money is owning more than one vehicle or having expensive vehicles. I have a friend who earns as much as I do or even less and owns 4 to 5 motorcycles. I have one and regret the purchase every day. Regarding technology, I see a lot of phones and other gadgets that are marketed as smart but are neither practical nor useful. I used to indulge in this myself when I was younger and may still be guilty of it. Story 66. Dating apps often have scams. Many females on these apps are likely bots. You often need to spend money just to message users. Most apps require payment even to like a picture. These apps seem designed to exploit desperate people, particularly men, for their money. Story 67. I buy comic books, specifically vintage Marvel and DC ones. I estimate I have up to 50 books that I bought last year and spent over £2,000. I hope their value will increase one day, and I love them regardless. I never thought about reselling, but it might be a good investment. Story 68. Financing cars, trailers, RVs, or anything really can be expensive. I bought an RV and financed less than half of it, but I will end up paying double the cost after the financing. As I get older, I realize that interest can be overwhelming. Maybe buying used isn't so bad after all. Story 69. Something that enabled poor purchases is the misguided concept from advertising that everything is an investment. You do not gain more value from your boots than you spent on them. Even if they last a long time, they are still items you bought that will wear out. Just accept the fact that you buy expensive things for enjoyment. Thanks a bunch for sticking around till the end of the video. Remember to subscribe, and until next time, stay awesome and goodbye.